Hey, welcome to 4th of July week, and today I'm going to talk a little bit about America and just some thoughts. Um, there's no way that we can, in the couple of brief moments here, do any justice to the great idea of America. But we just finished Vacation Bible School. Lots of young people trusting Christ, hundreds of young people hearing the stories of William Carey and laughing together, eating together, and it didn't cost them a thing. And our members provided a meal for everybody each evening, and just the service, singing, telling stories, serving food, donating lots of toys, and a lot of work. But it was a great few days. Plus, a lot of money raised for the Ghana Missions Group. All the VBS money that was raised is going with our group to Ghana, bringing gifts and special things for the missionaries there. And I just taken a minute or two today, and probably Wednesday as well, as we have the 4th of July on Thursday. Wanted to take just a couple of minutes and remind us of some things. First of all, last week, probably a lot of you saw a presidential debate, the most embarrassing thing probably America's ever had happen. Sure, there's been more, but in my memory, and again, I've only been alive the last portion of our history, but it's an embarrassment. It's a shame. It's a shame. It's a fraud that whoever is pulling strings and making decisions. You know, the man in the White House right now is not the one making the decisions. He's not capable of deciding which side of the platform to walk off of. He's not making decisions. Somebody is behind the radar, running our country, and that's the banana republic. That is a tyranny. That is horrible. Horrible. That is un-American. It's not American. Back when Obama said he was going to fundamentally transform America, my first thought, and I probably in 8 years of him being in the White House, I probably didn't hear a total of 20 minutes of him speaking. When somebody doesn't love America and doesn't love God, and doesn't love our Constitution, I have no use to listen. I have no point in listening to him. I won't listen to him. But when he said that, I did hear him say, we talk about during the campaign to fundamentally transform America. I thought, it's not yours. It's not yours to do that to. It's our country. And he had no business doing that. And a bunch of deceived voters who were more loyal to a political party than they were to principles, people who had been poorly educated in the principles of government, people that didn't understand democracy, republic, communism, and socialism. And people, and again, it could have been God's judgment on our nation because we had forsaken Him and aborted 1 million babies a year. And God can blind people. You read in Romans where God blinded the nation of Israel. Why? Because their hearts were hard. They thought they could live without Him, and God said, "All right, I'm just going to help you not be able to see." And that could be why we're where we are. Regardless of that, any Bible reader, any born again Bible believing person knows the basics, and you can see clearly. And so if you're shutting me off, that's fine. Shut it off, and then you won't get offended when I say other things later on. But we're in troubled days. We've got enough fuel in America, natural gas and now lithium and oil and coal. We could run our country and just tell the rest of the world to go jump in a lake, but instead our president used up all of our reserve that's supposed to be there for times of cataclysmic trouble. He just used that all up. Why? To make us weaker. And the trillions of dollars being borrowed, it's just a tragedy. That's not what America was founded on. Read American history, and don't read any books that are new. Read books that are written before 1960. It seems like that was a turning point. Not every book written since 1960 is bad, but prior to that, you could get a lot more truth than you can afterward. But I want to mention a couple things. The devil's crowd wants to kill babies. Remember in Egypt, they wanted to kill those baby boys. And in Moses' day, Mary Slessor in the 1700s, I think, and she might have been 1800s. I mix these missionaries up. But she's in Calabar, West Africa, and twins that were born, they figured one was the father's child, one was the devil's child. So they didn't know which. They'd throw them out into the jungle and feed them to the animals. And just babies are always a part of satanic agenda. Destroy the babies, destroy life. The thief, John 10 says, cometh not but for to steal, to kill, and to destroy. Jesus said, I came that you might have life, you might have it more abundantly. If the Son therefore shall make you free, you shall be free indeed. If you continue in my words, then are you my disciples indeed. And you shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. It's interesting. I've heard Sean Hannity and others quote that verse. If you the truth shall make you free, but they refuse. I've never heard one of them quote the first part of the verse. If you continue in my word, then you shall know the truth, and the truth will make you free. If you're not in this book, you don't know the truth, and the truth will not set you free. But anyway, what can we expect from a dumb old world around us? But freedom, Jesus came to set us free back in the Garden of Eden. God put that tree there. Now, I can't tell you what motivated God's decisions, but I know this. Adam and Eve had a choice. Eat the forbidden fruit or don't. God did not force them to obey. God gave them the choice. And that liberty to choose to obey God or not, that's a godly thing. And we need to be so, freedom should be so cherished. Let me read a couple of quotes. Thomas Jefferson, in a letter to William Jarvis, said, I know no safe depository for the ultimate powers of the society, but with the people themselves. Thomas Jefferson said the safest place to put the ultimate power of a country is with the people. You don't let a few elites control the country. That's not safe. The safest place is among the people. Then he went on, and if we think them not enlightened enough to exercise their control with a wholesome discretion, the remedy is not to take it from them, but to inform their discretion by education. This is a true corrective of abuses of constitutional power. In 1820, 40-some years after Constitution and the Bill of Rights, he said, let's give them a good education. Let's give them lots of information. And if you have enough information, then they can be trusted to make the decisions. Don't let a few elite government officials make the decisions. And that's where we're living. We've lost the freedom that our founders wanted us to have. And today, I listened to some of the congressional hearings here and there, and the fussing, fighting. We want you to release these transcripts. We want you to release this. And they're just ignoring congressional subpoenas. Why? Because information is freedom, and they don't want people to have information. They want to hide their corruption and their deception. If you want to go a little bit further, again, in 1821, Thomas Jefferson says, instead of an aristocracy of wealth, of more harm and danger than benefit the society, to make an opening for the aristocracy of virtue and talent, which nature has wisely provided for the direction of the interests of society and scattered with equal hand through all its conditions, was deemed essential to a well-ordered republic. You say, what did he just say? I've got 2 volumes of works of Thomas Jefferson. I read one page, I just have to stop. The guy is so smart, and he says so much, like every line is filled with truth. But he's basically saying, instead of having this aristocracy, see, they came over from Europe, and every country, France, Germany, Spain, Italy, Ireland, Scotland, the British Isles, England, they had kings and they had lords and they had sovereigns. And if you spoke against them, you were going to have your head chopped off or thrown in jail. You had to be loyal to the church. If it was in Spain, it might have been the Catholic Church. If it was in England, the Church of England. Somewhere else, another church. But there was a national church tied to a national government and the authorities and the powers that were there. And you couldn't speak against it. You couldn't have a differing opinion. In England, I don't know about the other countries, but in England, many, many people were in prison simply because they would not agree with the Church of England. Simple as that. You don't agree with the church that the government established, you go to prison. That's where we got Pilgrim's Progress, and that's where we got the dissenters' plea, 1620, an anonymous letter sent to the king and got into Parliament, read by Roger Williams, and that's where the first place on earth, as far as we know, of real freedom of conscience was in Rhode Island, because a man in prison said, I just would like the right to believe what I want to believe and to practice my faith in my home. And he wrote multiple letters, but there were many people in prison over that. Freedom. And yet I know somebody who said if you have that Trump bumper sticker on your car and you drive into Portland, by the next day the window will be broken out. That's not freedom. I've mentioned this before, but during one of the Obama elections, I can't remember which one, but a man standing he sat in the choir right behind me on the platform, and with his Obama button. And I didn't know anybody in our church would vote for Obama, but I don't ask people. It's none of my business. They vote for who they want to vote for, and they endorse who they want to endorse. That's called freedom. That is what America is built on. And he sat right behind me with his Obama button. You know, it was none of my business. If I wasn't in favor of his freedom to endorse his candidate, how could I possibly believe I had a right to the freedom to endorse my candidate? Now, I didn't go throw rocks through his window. I didn't take him out behind the building and beat him. He was bigger than me. What has happened in America is tyranny. You go over the last 6 years, and the anger and the violence simply because people disagree. And we can't do that. We should have the freedom to have differing opinions. Now, I don't think I should have the freedom to murder people, because my freedom stops when it takes away your freedom. And that's how our founders and the Bible teaches freedom. I can dig a hole in the ground, but I can't leave it unprotected, or someone else's freedom might be lost when they fall in the hole. So if I dig a hole, I've got to put some borders around it as some warnings. That's in the Bible. You put a flat roof and access to a roof in the book of Leviticus. It says if you put an area in the roof for people, you must put a fence around it, because you don't want anybody to fall off. See, my freedom to have a house like I want, it does not allow me to take away the freedom of the next guy to fall off the roof. And so your freedom stops when you take away the freedom of that unborn child in the womb. My freedom to drive, I should be able to drive my car anywhere I want, whenever I want. But if I'm going the wrong way on a freeway, my freedom is now endangering the freedom of others. If I'm going down a city street of residential, we have 25-mile-an-hour speed limits. I say, well, I'm free. I'll drive as fast as I want. No. Driving fast takes away the freedom of the children and the people who live in that neighborhood to walk and drive and ride their bike, skateboards. I'm going too fast to be able to protect their freedom. My freedom can't take away your freedom, nor should your freedom take away my freedom. And we've got to be so guarded. And Noah Webster, and so that's what he was talking about, is we've got to be so very careful. Thomas Jefferson wanted education to be pushed, because he said, the object of my education bill was to bring into action the mass of talents which lies buried in poverty in every country for want of the means of development, and thus give activity to the mass of minds which in proportion to our population shall be the double or triple of what it is in most countries. Thomas Jefferson said if we could get our people educated, we could produce far more than we do. People need good schools. That was all the way back in the 1880s. That was 1817 when he said that. Yes, 1817. Noah Webster, in regard to education, it is an object of magnitude that systems of education should be adopted and pursued, which may not only diffuse the knowledge of the sciences, but listen to this, he said, I don't want them just to know science, but may implant in the minds of American youth the principles of virtue and liberty. So Noah Webster said, if we're going to get this thing of education going, they must educate them in virtue and liberty. And see, that's what's not being taught in our schools, especially our colleges, but now in our high schools. And inspire them with just and liberal ideas of government, and with the invaluable attachment to their own country. He said our education should create such an attachment that it can't be separated with a love for America. Our founders said our educational system should make people fall in love with this nation. And so when our founders came over to America, they gave us that First Amendment. We got the Declaration of Independence, and then it took a few years to put together our Bill of Rights. And the Bill of Rights, if you've not heard me talk about it, there's a lot more in it than just this moment. But the fact is, James Madison met with John Leland, the Baptist, the kind of a leader of Baptists, wasn't a denomination, but he was a main leader. They met in a place called the Leland Madison Park, still there today, Baptist preacher's name before the politician's name, and it's still there. And they met because Leland was not going to support Madison unless there was a Bill of Rights, unless there was the right of the Baptists, a right for religious liberty in America. And Madison said, I promise you, if you get behind me and get me in there, I will get you a Bill of Rights, and I'll get you freedom of religion. And so they did. Leland trusted him, and he did. And we got that First Amendment, freedom of speech, freedom of religion, the free exercise of our religion. And when COVID came around, and they're saying you could go to church with 10 people or 100 people, but you can't go, they were taking away our freedom to assemble. Now, if you were burning buildings and tearing up police cars and destroying property, they'll let them meet. Let them assemble. They didn't even need masks. They could cuss and swear and burn and pillage and destroy. See, that's the kind of thing. That's not freedom. That's tyranny. But here we want to peacefully assemble in church. And by the way, Riverside County, I like our sheriff and I like our police. And when that COVID thing first started, and they said you're not going to be able to assemble and have church and whatever, and I thought, you know what, my Bible and my country are at conflict right now. And I drove around on Saturday night and I found a police car parked, and I didn't even get out of the car, rolled my window down. I said, could I ask you a question? Of course, he had to say yes. He was busy writing reports or doing whatever, I don't know what, but he's in a parking lot. And I said, people are saying we're not supposed to assemble for church. I said, of all times, the people in my church need church. They need to know that everything's okay. They need to know that God's going to take care of this, and that they don't have to be afraid. And I said, my people need a pastor. And I said, I need to know what's going to happen if I have church tomorrow. And he was so good. He said, I think you need to do your job, Pastor. He didn't tell me we could assemble, didn't tell we couldn't assemble, but he said I better do my job. I could have hugged the guy. And I don't know who it was. I don't even know if it was sheriff or police, but it was one of our local black and whites. And how thankful I am. And most of America is like that, but much of our cities and much of our liberal areas are not that way. But see, freedom. But the idea that I am free, and our founders gave us that Bill of Rights. First, the Declaration of Independence, we are going to be free from English rule. You will not run us. And that was the result of years of trying. They didn't just rebel. They tried and tried and tried to negotiate. They tried political means, and they could not reach a peaceful agreement. And then the Bill of Rights comes along a while later, and the very first thing they said is, we're going to give you a right to the freedom of the press. We're going to give you freedom of religion, freedom to assemble, freedom to practice your religion. And you're going to have a right to say, I don't agree with the president. You're going to have a right to say, I don't agree with Congress. I don't agree with the Supreme Court. You have a right to not agree with certain religions, and that there would be no the establishment clause, that the government could not say, here's the religion we all have to follow. The establishment clause has nothing to do with a nativity scene in the White House or the president having a prayer breakfast. Nothing to do with that whatsoever. Because that's freedom. The Establishment Clause is saying everybody in England is going to belong to the Church of England. If you're in any other, we're throwing you in jail. That violates the Establishment Clause. America's never been that way. Well, since we got our Bill of Rights, it hasn't. But it started out that way. And freedom, and that I should protect my neighbor's freedom. I was talking to somebody about buying a piece of property and he was asking my opinions. We were talking about some things, and I said, if that's your property, I said, I'm an abstainer in regard to booze. I don't think anybody should drink liquor. I don't like liquor. I don't drink liquor. But as far as my feelings go, you are free. And if you buy that property, you can open a septic tank service or a brewery. And I do. And I'm not for liquor. But you know what? That's freedom. Somewhere somebody's got to believe in freedom. This 4th of July, this Independence Day, if you've never read it, the idea to assemble. Here's what Thomas Jefferson said, and others of our founders said, that the 4th of July should have activities, and they should have these activities with guns and food and illuminations, fireworks. From the very beginning, they wanted guns to be fired and lots of good food and lots of fireworks. Why? Because freedom is so very precious. I love that. That one year, our governor, he said, no fireworks displays. We're not doing it this year because of, I don't know if it was COVID or fire dangers or whatever. And there were, our house is a little bit higher than a lot of the houses, so we can see, when you look out our backyard, you see more roofs than anything. And there were more fireworks going on than I'd ever seen in my life. And I thought, I love America. I love it. And the governor has no right to tell you how to live. I don't think he's got a right to tell you how many vitamins to take, what kind of helmet to put on your head. I'm not against car seats for babies, but I don't think the government's got any right to tell you to do it. That's just me. There's so many areas where they're encroaching on our freedoms. This 4th of July, let's believe in freedom. Let's remember freedom. Freedom, 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 freedom. And our founders gave us a country with freedom, and politicians and tyrants have little by little been pulling away those freedoms and binding our hands with their laws. And I don't know what we need to do, but I know we need God. And we need church. You and I need to get our families and friends into Sunday school, into church, into their Bibles, because the only one that can really make us free is Jesus Christ. I hope you have a great day, and I'll probably address some more of this on Wednesday because that's the 3rd of July, and I just think America is worth trying to save, and let's pray that God would do it.